Welcome to the Brush Paint Studio Kids Bunny Take and Make Canvas. The supplies you will need are a paper towel, 2 brushes including your flat brush and your pointed brush, a rinse cup so you can clean your brushes, and your paints. First, we will start off by painting the entire background of the canvas purple using our wide brush. You can dip the brush a little bit in your water to help soften it up so the paint can flow better. You then want to dip your brush into the purple and paint the entire background of the canvas using long, even strokes. Avoid leaving big globs of paint because these areas will not dry very well. Don't forget to paint the sides of your canvas as well so it will have a nice finished look when you are done. You will want to dry your canvas in between each step using a hair dryer. Be sure to constantly move your dryer around the canvas to avoid melting the paint. It's best to use the dryer on a low heat setting. There will most likely be areas on your canvas where the white is still showing through the purple. We want to be sure to do a second coat to ensure that there is full coverage of purple in the background. Once again, use long, even strokes. Use your hair dryer to dry the background completely for the next step. Every time you are done using a color, be sure to rinse your brush completely using the rinse cup provided. You can lightly pounce the brush on the bottom of the cup to make sure all the paint is cleaned out from in between the bristles. Once you are done rinsing it out, be sure to dry completely on your paper towel. Next, we will be drawing the polka dots using the small styrofoam cup and our pen. You can use the top to do big circles and the bottom of the cup to do smaller circles. Be sure to trace the circles in a random pattern all around your canvas. However, do not draw so many circles that you cover up the background color. It is now time to paint the polka dots. Take the green paint and your pointed brush. Wet the brush slightly to help the paint flow better. Using your pointed brush, outline the edge of the polka dot first to make it easier to fill in. Once you are done outlining the polka dot, you can now fill it in using even strokes. Avoid leaving big globs of paint so that won't leave unnecessary texture in your background. Repeat the step of outlining the polka dots first and then filling in with even strokes throughout the entire background until all your polka dots are filled in. As you're painting, feel free to rotate the canvas in any direction to make your painting easier. There will still be some areas of purple showing through your green polka dots. For this reason, we will be doing a second coat of paint using the same method of outlining the dots first and then filling in with even strokes. Make sure your canvas is completely dry before moving on to the next step. We will now begin tracing the bunny. Grab your bunny stencil as well as your pen and line up the bottom edge of the bunny with the bottom edge of the canvas, while at the same time making sure that the bunny face is centered in the canvas. Take your pen and start outlining the outside of the stencil. Since we are using a very light color to paint the bunny, it is important to have clean water to rinse out our brushes. At this point, you will want to change out your water in your rinse cup. Take your pointed brush and make sure that it is completely rinsed out before we start painting the white. You will now take your pointed brush and start doing the outline of the bunny. Go around the entire edge of the stencil with the white to make it easier to fill in. When you are finished with the outline of the bunny, be sure to rinse out your pointed brush completely before moving on to the next step. You will now take your wide brush to fill in the remainder of the bunny face. Dip your brush in the water a little bit to get it wet so it will flow with the paint easily. Then you will want to take your white paint and apply it in long, even strokes throughout the entire face. Be sure to dry completely with your hairdryer before moving on to the next step. White is a very light color and will usually have some of the background color peeking through. We will need to do a second coat of the white to ensure that we have a full coverage layer of white. Take your wide brush and reapply another coat of white all around the bunny. As always, dry completely before moving on to the next step. We will now be tracing the feet stencils. Take your pen and your feet stencils and line them up on the bottom edge of the canvas, using the straight edge of the feet against the bottom of the canvas. Space the feet evenly and then trace them with your pen. You will now take your pointed brush to go around the edges of the feet, similar to how we have done the bunny and the polka dots before this. Load your brush with the white paint and then go around the outside edge of both feet. Once you have it outlined, then fill in completely with even strokes. Dry completely with your hairdryer before moving on to the next step. As we did with the face, be sure to do 2 coats of paint on the feet to ensure that there is full coverage. Next, you will take your ear stencils and your nose stencil and place them on the face for tracing. You will want to try to center the ears as best as possible. Then take your nose and center that on the face. Then take your pen and start outlining the nose. Once you are finished with the nose, move on to tracing the ears. You will now want to take your pink paint as well as your pointed brush. Make sure the pointed brush is rinsed out very well. Start painting the nose similarly to how we have been painting all the other shapes, by going around the edge first, outlining with our fine pointed brush, and then filling in with even strokes after we have outlined it. Repeat the same process for the ears, outlining the outside edge first, and then filling in with even strokes. Dry completely with your hairdryer before the next step. Since this pink color is another light color, we will need to do 2 coats. Do another coat of pink using the same method of going around the outside edge first with your pointed brush and then filling in with even strokes. Do this for the nose as well as for both ears. Then make sure you dry completely before the next step. We will now be moving on to the final color, which is black. Make sure that your pointed brush is rinsed out very well before this next step. We will now be drawing on the eyes. Use the tip of your brush and try to load the black paint on only the tip of your brush. You will then draw 2 circles above the nose for the eyes. If you feel more comfortable with drawing them out first, you can do so as well. You will now start outlining the ears with the black paint. Try to only use the tip of your brush so you can have more control over the line and how thick it will be. To keep your bristles pointed, you can dip them in a little bit of water and then twist your brush against the side of a palette or against the surface of your paint container. Continue to outline both of the ears. Next, move down to the outline on the nose, again using the tip of your brush as much as possible. Next, you will draw on the whiskers. First, by doing a long curved line at the top, then a straight line that is shorter, and then a curved line that goes upward on the bottom. Again, you can draw these out with your pen if that makes you more comfortable. To draw the mouth, you will first want to start with a long line coming out from the tip of the bottom of the nose and then extending into a backwards J shape. Then do the same thing on the other side, this time making a forwards facing J shape. Then add small dots on both sides of the mouth for more facial detail. Using the tip of your brush, outline the outside of the feet. To add the toes, you will want to make 2 little upside down V shapes on both of the feet. Do this by using the tip of your brush and flicking it outward. You can now finish your outline by going around the face of the bunny. Again, feel free to move your canvas around to avoid putting your hand in areas of wet paint. We will now be finishing the last of the details. Grab your pointed brush and make sure that it is completely rinsed out so we can add these few white details. Get a little bit of white paint on the tip of your brush and add a small dot in both of the eyes for a little sparkle. Then you will want to add little white highlights to the pink areas of the canvas, including the nose and the ears. You can do this simply by just adding one line in the shapes that go along with the curve. You can also add a little hair by getting some white paint on the tip of your brush and just doing some fine lines that flick outward on the top of the head. Go ahead and touch up any other areas of the painting that need to be touched up. Be sure to rinse your brushes thoroughly when you are done.